Weather Service says there'll be heavy snow and gusty winds in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast this evening as an area of low pressure arrives off the coast of North Carolina. Jen Thompson is there. She's with the North Carolina Department of Transportation.
We are already getting ready.
Reverend Williams is on the line.
Thank you so much. Pastor Williams, how are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much.
Forecasters say the heaviest snow will likely extend from Maryland through Maine, which could get a foot of snow. Will not start a war with neighboring Ukraine, but it has a warning. The AP's Charles Ledesma's got it.
Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says in a live interview with Russian radio stations there won't be a war as far as it depends on the Russian Federation, but Russia won't let its interests be rudely trampled on, he says, and ignored. President Joe Biden warned Ukraine's president on Thursday that there's a distinct possibility that Russia could take military action against its neighbour Ukraine. I'm Charles Ledesma.
Russia is demanding that NATO promise Ukraine will never be allowed to join NATO, and it wants the alliance to roll back troop deployments in Eastern Europe. Announced news about COVID-19 and vaccines, blasting what he called the distortion of reality based on
your mind.
Human rights activists are issuing a call to action against the Beijing Olympics.
Catalog some of this stuff in my mind. So how you doing? How you feeling?
What they call the genocide game.
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, good.
In Tibetan populations.
I will let you know this by Monday if I'm going to be in town next week, next weekend.
Gotcha.
Because I definitely want to see you while you're here.
Shooting suspect plans to plead insanity.
I don't know what my schedule is, but we got to make it a point.
You know what? Look, we'll work it out.
Killing 4 students at a Michigan high school.
We will work it out.
Filed a notice Thursday saying it will pursue an insanity test. 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley is charged as an adult with murder and other crimes.
Trying to get the rest of these papers together because I think we're going to be doing this on Reverend Show on Sunday, talking about the Supreme Court pick.
A lawsuit was announced on behalf of the parents
so
of
there's
Pete
that.
Meyer, who was killed in the Oxford High School shooting. Named as defendants are Crumbley's parents, Oxford High School's dean of students, 2 counselors, and 3 teachers. I'm Mike Rossio.
Kellyanne Conway has a memoir coming out on May 24th. She is a former White House counselor in the Trump administration, as you may remember. Her book is called Here's the Deal. Her publisher says it's a look beyond the headlines.
Administration. All righty. Okay, so we are now cooking with hot grease. I've got this, got myself together now, girl. Whew. Pastor, I am always trying to get these last few papers because it's always, you know, when you see people who are about to come up on the news and they're shuffling papers, a lot of, like, Brian Williams wrote his show, and he was the ultimate editor on the show. You know, so you're constantly going over material, you know, you're constantly doing that. You're like, okay, this story came out, or there's another slant, hadn't thought about that. And then I do a couple of other shows over the weekend too, so, and I'm doing something else during the week. So I'm just always, it's just, we got this stuff, we got to get it going on. Okay. Oh, Lord bless this show. Praise the Lord. Amen. Okay. If you're not able to get a call, let me know as soon as possible. Okay? Okay, thanks so much. Hey, Carol, out there on the left coast, and Linda and Andre and Samantha. Sending you all much love today out there in Central PA. Carol out there in Beverly Hills. Daryl, how you doing in Columbus, Ohio? Everybody like and share the show. To the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please invite people. We're growing the show, and I'm so glad that we're able to do that. But I need you all to like and share. Everybody like and share, and tell people if they want to befriend me on Facebook, please have them go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. The Santita Jackson page is just a landing page. So I don't bring in any more friends. And in fact, they've been kicking people off for years. I didn't quite know the system, but now I do. So if you would come on over to the fan page, to the Santita Jackson and Friends page, because that's where I'm active anyway. we can all stay together. So please tell everybody, like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and please view from there, because that's Facebook told me that that's where you all should be viewing the show. You should be viewing from YouTube. And of course, tell people that they can also stream live if all the video goes down on WCPT820.com or AM950radio.com. So what do you think about these Supreme Court picks? I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. And don't be surprised by anything. Thank you so much, Paul. So come on up, everybody. Let's get to it.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota and Minneapolis, St. Paul. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. I want you to meet the Santita Jackson Morning Stars on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there, please, if you will. And then you can meet us on the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That is the page where you can find me. Not Santita Jackson, but Santita Jackson and Friends. I had to include you. It's good to hear your voices today, and I want to hear your voices, not just see them written. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Let's talk about what the exit of Justice Breyer means and what the entrance of maybe a progressive Black woman could mean. What would that mean? What would she bring to the table? What do you expect her to bring to the table? I think that's probably the more pressing question. We have someone who's not been a prosecutor, someone who's actually been a public defender. We actually have someone in the mix now who's not an Ivy Leaguer out of South Carolina, Miss Childs, Judge Childs. So do you want someone who's not from the Ivy League? Everybody comes from the Ivies, but genius did not begin or end in the Ivy League. So we got to talk about that today. And then, of course, getting the latest information on COVID. Did you know, for example, that you're not supposed to exercise when you have COVID? Yeah. So we've got Dr. Deborah Verholden and Dr. Shanita Knighton to talk to us about that as we move into this discussion about Supreme Court Justice. This is a lifetime appointment, everybody, and they absolutely impact our lives in tremendous ways. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, and let's talk this morning. Everybody, it's Friday, January 28th, 2022. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 24 degrees and snow. It snowed last night, and it is beautiful. Please be careful out there, though, because it is cold, and you'll have a lot of black ice. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 11 degrees above zero. God bless you, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Partly cloudy. It's been a tumultuous week on Wall Street. Tumultuous, wild swings of 1,000 points just every other day, it seems. Well, things kind of settled out, kind of, sort of, I guess. Everybody's waiting for this week to be over. The Dow closed down 7 points. The NASDAQ closed down 189 points. The S&P 500 closed down 23 points. In the NBA, the Timberwolves, well, they fell to the Warriors. The Warriors 124, the Timberwolves 115, and the Bulls will be in San Antonio tonight playing the Spurs. As far as the NHL goes, it's going to be a busy night tonight for Minnesota and for Chicago. In Minnesota, well, the Avalanche will be, here in Chicago, and the Wild will be with the Rangers. Everybody, what about the Supreme Court? What do you think is going to happen? Well, yesterday we heard President Biden step aside from the mic, and Justice Stephen Breyer, who's been on the court since 4 decades now. Well, he has now stepped aside, and his brother on CNN this morning said, yes, there were political considerations because he was appointed by a Democrat. He'd like to have a Democrat appoint his successor. Well, now you've got at least 5 African-American women who are possible nominees. President Biden reasserted his pledge to nominate a Black woman to the seat. Do you agree with that? I want you to call me or text me at 773-763-9278. And what should her background be? I've heard you ask a lot of questions about that. I mean, is she an African American who's part of the immigrant community, part of the diaspora? Is she an African American who's a descendant of American slaves? A lot of people have been asking those questions. I want to know if any of that's important to you. What about her perspective? Should she have gone to an Ivy League school? There's so much to talk about on the Santita Jackson Show. Bomb cyclone. Everybody is dealing with crazy weather. A bomb cyclone, as they're calling it, is expected to batter the Northeast this weekend with heavy snow, wind, and coastal flooding. More than 55 million Americans are currently under winter storm watches and travel advisories. Some forecasts remain uncertain, but most are showing that eastern Massachusetts, including Boston and Rhode Island, could be hit with 12 to 24 inches of snow, combined with wind gusts topping 60 miles per hour. The storm is expected to form off the coast of the Carolinas today, and once it reaches the East Coast, it may dump as many as 14 inches of snow in Connecticut and New York. Everybody, please be careful. And these cyclones, did you know they actually begin in Africa and they follow the route of the slave ships? You can't make this stuff up, everybody. The coronavirus. Millions of Americans are behind on flu, hepatitis, chickenpox, and other routine vaccinations as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Adults and adolescents have missed more than 37 million routine vaccinations, according to an analysis of insurance claims by Avalier, a health care consulting firm. Experts are stressing the importance of getting up to date as soon as possible. Of course, we will be asking Dr. Deb about that because she has a program coming out of Michigan State University where she is urging people to do just that. And President Castro in Honduras. First time in the history of this nation, they have a female president. Our vice president, Kamala Harris, and Medea Benjamin, the peace activist. So many people are down there celebrating what they're calling the people's win. Indeed, she is someone who is a populist, and people are very excited about that. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, it's always such a joy to have you with us today. First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York. What is the good news?
Good morning. Thank you, Santita, for having me. As always, good morning to all of the listeners and the morning stars. Today, Santita, I want to talk about something that we all do. None of us have the patent on not doing this. I want to talk about making mistakes. More specifically, talk about how we go from oops to aha. It should bring anyone listening today great comfort to know that you don't have the patent on mistakes. The Bible is filled with those that we thought unfailing who have endured their fair share of follies. Noah, Moses, Sarah, Miriam, David, you name it. They have all failed to some extent. Yet, here's the first piece of good news. Their failure was not final, nor was it fatal. And I want you to know today that your failure is not fatal. In fact, God is using it right now for your good. Nothing is wasted in God's economy. Every moment and every mistake, everything that you've done can be used for God's glory. I want Peter to prove that to us today. Peter was suffering from what scientists dub the Dunning-Kruger effect. When he denied Jesus 3 times, most would say he made the mistake of a lifetime. He thought that was impossible because he thought he could never betray Jesus. He walked on water for Jesus. He killed for Jesus. He would cut off an ear for Jesus. And yet when the time came, as Jesus predicted, Peter went on to deny him 3 times, suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect, where one makes a mistake due to a confidence skill disconnect. In other words, when a person's confidence outstrips their skill, they can make a mistake. Peter was confident in his commitment to Jesus, but completely overestimated his capacity to be loyal to Jesus in the moment. And we're all prone to that. We all make mistakes. Jesus said, before a rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And yet, in spite of his mistake, don't you know today that did not disqualify him from being used by God? His error did not exclude him from Christ's plan. Peter is still the first of the 12 that Jesus appeared to. Peter still goes on to become the leader of the disciples. Peter still managed to become a major messianic messenger. Peter's preaching still saved 3,000. Who knew a mistake could build a megachurch? Peter didn't lose out because of a momentary lapse. He still became the rock upon which Christ would build build his church. I'm saying today that your mistakes don't disqualify you from the plan of God, because just as Peter denied Jesus 3 times, he was given an opportunity to profess his love for Jesus 3 times, a confirmation of love for every defamation of character. And the same goes for you. When you slip up, he saves. When you blunder, he blesses. When you fumble, he favors. When you miscalculate, he reformulates. When you flub, he fixes. I learned a long time ago this quote that people make mistakes and you have to decide if their mistakes are bigger than your love for them. Well, a long time ago, our Savior on a hilltop called Calvary decided that there's no mistake bigger than his love for you. I'm excited about that this morning because our oops, when we learn from them, can become an aha moment. We can go from oops to aha, regret to revelation. In August of 2012, Merriam-Webster released their annual list of new dictionary words, terms, and popular slang that have earned their way into the lexicons of common use. At the very top, above bucket list, game changer, and sexting, was a phrase popularized by Oprah herself, the aha moment. What is an aha moment? Oprah explained in a video for Merriam-Webster, an aha moment is officially defined as a moment of sudden inspiration, insight, recognition, or comprehension. Here's the thing, Santita, about an aha moment, is that you think you never thought of it that way before. But you can't have an aha unless you already knew it. So the aha is the remembering of what you already knew, articulated in a way to resonate with your own truth. So the aha isn't somebody teaching you something. The aha is somebody helping you to remember it. It's a resonation. It's a resonating with what somehow is buried or suppressed. Hold up. That means that Peter's resonation was revealed in the crow of a rooster. When that rooster crowed, Peter had an aha moment and remembered what he already knew, that he would deny Jesus 3 times. But here is the good news. When we have those aha moments, they did a study on roosters and found out that roosters' clock is internal, that no matter how they tried to trick them, no matter how they tried to change the light, no matter how they tried to keep them in the dark, at 23.8 hours, that rooster would crow. The scientists concluded that the birds must have an internal clock that tells them when to crow. And due to the fact that roosters can't be tricked into crowing at any other time of day as strongly as they do around dawn, the researchers concluded that their internal clock must take precedence over external cues. I'm preaching to somebody this morning. In other words, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. What you know to be true on the inside takes precedence over anything happening on the outside. I ought to have a witness this morning. Your internal peace takes precedence over your external pain. Your internal joy takes precedence over external junk. Your internal calm takes precedence over external craziness. Your internal faith takes precedence over external foolishness. Your internal fire takes precedence over external fear. And your internal happiness takes precedence over any external hell you're going through right now. What God put in you is greater than anything going on around you. What God put in you cannot be manipulated or duplicated. Greater is what is in you than that which is in the world. Who knew that a rooster could provide such revelation? You're going to make mistakes, and God loves you anyhow. And that's the good news.
Amen. 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 Turn that oops into an aha. Oh my goodness. Greater is he that is within you than all of that which is in the world. Oh my goodness. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, First Baptist Church in Bridgehampton, New York. How can we hear your service, see your service?
My services are available. We are on YouTube every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so if you go to YouTube, you can subscribe to the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton channel, and you can engage with us every single week for our morning worship.
Every single week. God bless you. I know Dr. Furholden and Dr. Shanina Knighton, I know if that blessed you this morning. Of course, Dr. Deborah Holden, epidemiologist, associate dean of public health at Michigan State University at their School of Medicine. And we hear that baby India, that is new hope for the future. We just love her, love her, love her. And Dr. Shanita Knighton, registered nurse, her children are a little older and they're making noise in the other part of the house. Of course, she's a research scholar at Case Western Reserve University. But India is our baby. Infection preventionist, Dr. Shanita Knighton. In fact, at Hey Dr. Nina, follow her. A lot of people are talking to me about what they're finding out as they look at her reels and as they get her information. Dr. Holden, we love little India. You know, she's our baby, and everybody's saying off. You know, thank you for bringing her with us because we love that. We love that. We love that. Now, you know, Dr. Fauci has said it's prudent to have an Omicron vaccine, but it may not be needed. But there is something else that's coming out. Scientists are working to develop a pan coronavirus vaccine, one that can offer protection against multiple variants of the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Now, let me ask you this. With this cover, that's part of my headlines today, was the fact that 37 million Americans have missed their vaccines this year. I mean, not COVID-19 vaccines, but all kinds of vaccines. And in fact, the NICE program that I'm participating, that Dr. Knighton and I are participating with you in out of Michigan State University, is attacking that particular problem. So many of us need a flu vaccine. We've missed that. We need the pneumonia vaccines, hepatitis, chickenpox, other routine vaccinations. People are missing those, Dr. Holden. What do you say about that right now? 37 million, that's a lot of people.
It is. And we talked about this, Santita, back in 2020 because all the babies missed their vaccines. And that's a lot more impactful, I think, for them because, you know, we're right now, and it goes back to this point I'm making about this overemphasis on COVID and the overemphasis on the COVID vaccine. I wrote an op-ed about this. We run the risk of seeing the reemergence of things like smallpox and other types of illnesses that we don't deal with anymore because, you know, we've got immunizations for people to, you know, provide them protection. And so it's a problem. But it's what happens when you shut your healthcare system down, right? And you remember there was a big period in 2020 where none of this stuff was happening. All primary and preventive care was shut down. A lot of healthcare providers figured it out, came online with, you know, remote or telehealth services, but a whole lot of people didn't. And the time that it took a lot of people to do that, a lot of people just missed stuff and then just said, forget it. People weren't getting mammograms. People weren't getting colonoscopies. People weren't getting their vaccines. And that, you know, that legacy, I think, effect still continues. And of course, who do you think that stuff hits the hardest? The people who already have barriers and challenges to getting that stuff and doing that stuff. You know, so I think it's a huge problem. But again, it's because we put everything on COVID as if every other aspect of life and health and how the world moves wasn't continuing to happen. This issue of a COVID vaccine that's specific to Omicron, I've been talking also about, you know, kind of waiting a little bit for these second-generation vaccines to come out, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I had COVID. I just recovered from COVID. My university has a mandate. Everybody is required by mandate to have a booster shot by February 1st. And I said, well, that's not 90 days out from my initial infection, not even recovery, just infection. And my doctor told me I'm good for 90 days. So I said, if my doctor said I'm good, then how are you going to force me to get a shot that my doctor said I don't need until March 1st? So we'll see how that goes. But by the time, if they develop a vaccine that's specific for Omicron, by the time they get that vaccine on the streets, will be many, many variants of concern down the alphabet. So just know that. You know, I always remind people of this, and it's not the worst thing in the world. I just want to be forthcoming and transparent. The flu vaccine that we all get is built on the flu strains from the previous year. right? The time it takes to manufacture, to do the laboratory work, to develop the vaccine, to then get it, manufactured and mass produced, and then to get it out into the marketplace. That's a process. I think it takes about 9 months with the flu vaccine. So you're getting a flu vaccine, best case scenario, that's built on if it's hot off the presses, the flu that was out 9 months ago.
Wait. So is it going to work?
So you're getting the vaccine from the previous year's strains of flu.
So then, does it work? I got 2 minutes. I mean, what are we supposed to do?
Well, the definition of what works, we know it's changed. What do you mean, does it work? Does it prevent you from ever getting infected, or does it reduce, risk for severe symptoms and hospitalizations and death? I guess it depends on what your definition of working is, how I would answer that question. But I just want to put that out there because I also don't want people to put such a high bar on the COVID vaccine that we don't put on anything else.
37 million.
This is how this goes. There's no, vaccine for these types of infectious diseases, especially the ones that mutate the way your typical flu virus does or your typical coronavirus does.
Well, that's 11% of Americans. I mean, 37 million people have missed that. And you're telling me that children have missed that. But then,
I can't imagine that number isn't substantially higher for children.
Wow.
And you know why? Because when I looked at it in 2020, the number was closer to like 40% of kids had fallen behind on their just regular, vaccinations. The basic ones that are, a part of their child visits and required for school, to register and attend school, public school and all of that. So, but we know, right? So for the children, we know because there's one place where these vaccines are getting ordered primarily through the CDC, and we could just simply see the vaccines weren't even being ordered. So you can't possibly administer something, right? Like it's one way in the supply chain to also understand uptake. If physicians and healthcare providers and healthcare organizations aren't even ordering the vaccines, there's no way that those vaccines, or they're going some other route to even get those vaccines into people's, bodies. So it was a huge problem, huge problem. Because then here comes an even better question: when people are trying to catch their kids up, how do you do that? You describe oftentimes your mom saying, "Hey, I gave my kid all these vaccines at once, like y'all said, and she didn't do so well." So even though I'm no doctor, I know that was too much for her at once. So I'm going to slow it down.
Well, because my mother had kids.
We're going to slow it down.
Well, see, because I've seen another generation, right? I've seen another generation. And that's why I asked my mother, because she's the best doctor I know. She got 5 kids to maturity. Yeah. And she said, she said, I can't tell you. I can't say. She said, but when you were children, we spaced out these shots. And she said, and I feel that was safer. She said, but then they changed, they've perfected a lot of the medicine. So she said, so I cannot say. But she said, when you see your little baby that you're holding in both hands, you're frightened to death to give him anything. Because you want to make sure, you're like, if I can just keep them right here in my arms.
Yeah.
As you're holding baby India, you can't do that. So, we're going to continue to talk about these vaccines going forward. We're going to have about 10 minutes on the other side. I want to hear your thoughts on the Supreme Court justice, but we still have more COVID-19 and really health news. How about that, Dr. Verholden? Would you say don't overemphasize that? Because we got a lot of other things going on. People are not getting their flu vaccines, pneumonia vaccines, hepatitis. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. We will destroy ourselves. Ooh, I can't this morning about you immediately. So, Dr. Knighton, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
I know you all are tired of getting these little missives from me in the middle of the night, but that's what happens. I just send them to you. As soon as I see a little something, I'm up. I'm up all the time. Goodness gracious. Ooh. But did you see this don't work out with COVID-19? The World Health Organization has revealed that, of course, that Omicron has been devastating, but they do not want you working out when you have had, when you are in the midst, when you're positive for COVID. They said that you should put your exercise on pause, even if you're asymptomatic. Did you hear about that?
I did.
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Why?
It doesn't. I haven't had COVID and haven't known a lot of people who got it. I had a very good girlfriend, my best friend from college. We were freshman roommates. Ran 8 miles on Sunday. She's a runner. She ran 8. She lives in LA. Ran 8 miles on Sunday, and on Wednesday tested positive for COVID. She said, "Okay, what do I do?" I said, "My recommendation to Danny, just the first thing is just give your body a chance to heal itself. Just stay chill. I don't know where you are with the headache, fatigue. We start talking about her symptoms. She had very similar symptoms to the ones that I had, except by about day 5, she was down.
Really?
She was down. Like COVID knocked her down.
What do you mean knocked her down?
And she got Omicron.
Like,
So
what do you mean it knocked her down?
Saying, oh, it's mild symptoms. I'm like, yeah, y'all keep telling yourself that.
No, but that's what we're being told, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you say that she got knocked down, what do you mean by that?
Couldn't get out of bed, would call me and text me. She said every night it felt like she said sleeping at night was scary. She could
Attorney Hoffler and Attorney Griggs on the line.
Like she had a tennis ball in her throat.
Oh.
When she was up, it felt like she had something sitting on her chest. And when she said she laid down, it felt like she had a tennis ball in her throat and she had trouble breathing. Now, once she recovered, she tested negative, actually just a few days ago. And then she, kind of went on like a light jog. She said she can absolutely feel the difference, but for most people, this stuff you will get better over time. But just because your body has cleared the virus doesn't mean that you won't be dealing with the collateral damage for, many people for weeks and sometimes months to come.
Well, they're saying that, there's another study that says that if you get Omicron, you're more likely to have long haul COVID. But, but let me bring up Attorney Hoffler, who you frightened to death, and Attorney Gerald Griggs.
Oh, no. Long haul. What does that mean?
Back in 30.
No.
Well,
I can't have nothing coming on here as a buzzkill.
I mean, girl,
I was feeling okay. I was feeling just okay this morning.
Well, honey,
I said we're gonna have a black woman in the U.S. Supreme Court. Now I'm like long term COVID. What?
Let that go. Doctors Verholden and Knighton, we're going to go to 40 minutes after the hour, but stay with us because we're talking about the Supreme Court. I have a question for you. I want you to go back to that. Dr. Knighton.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 Radio. Well, no, WCPT in Chicago and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. It looks like we're going to have an African-American woman, a black woman, be nominated for the Supreme Court. And what does that mean to you? And what qualities do you want her to embody? I mean, is this an opportunity for us to get away from having everyone go to the Supreme Court, be from the Ivy League? I mean, what about a progressive? What about someone who's actually been a public defender, as Ketanji Brown Jackson has been? And did you know she was related to Paul Ryan, former Speaker Paul Ryan, by marriage? Oh, wow. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. But before we go into that, as we talk with Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Attorney Gerald Griggs, because I also want to know, should we now abandon the voting rights fight for this one? Something to think about. Do we have to do a trade-off, or must we pursue both of these? Should we pursue this Supreme Court nomination and this seat and our voting rights at the same time? Should we? Call me at 773-763-9278. Dr. Verholden, thank you so much for really helping us to get clear on these vaccine we still need to get, because we are way, way, way behind on hepatitis vaccines and flu vaccines and pneumonia vaccines and all of these things that help to keep us healthy. But Dr. Knighton, I came across this, and you said you were not surprised. It says, do not work out when you are COVID-19 positive. At the gym or anywhere else, they said, put your body on pause and work toward getting healthy. Why were you not surprised by that? And why have we gotten that admonition from the World Health Organization?
Well, I think the one thing that people tend to ignore is the effects of COVID on, I would say, the micro level, meaning like your oxygen is impacted on even a smaller level beyond your capacity to be able to breathe, right? So we're actually talking about the oxygen that's being filtered through your system seems to be less. And the studies have shown that. It's crazy because, like, I hear what they're saying, but I always recommend to people to not just stop moving. And that's the truth, because the thing is one thing that they don't talk about is what's called atelectasis, meaning that a lot of individuals that, are not up and moving or feel like they can't move, their lungs are at risk of collapsing. So that's what atelectasis is, because they're not up and moving. And so I always recommend to people, which is something that even doctors will recommend, is for people to make sure that they're at least trying to do deep breathing exercises. And for individuals that may have been used to working out and, let's say, doing strenuous exercises, they're going to struggle with that. A lot of individuals report, the ones that have bad symptoms, that they're, breathing in and out feels like glass, like their lungs feel like glass, like sharp glass. And it's something that's hurtful to them. But I always encourage people at least to do deep breathing. So, no, you might not be up doing strenuous exercises, but the bottom line is you still should be keeping your lungs moving. So I'm not surprised that they said that, but in the same token, I don't think sitting and not doing nothing and moving air out of your lungs is like the best thing to do, because they should, you have to continue to work on your breathing capacity, especially when we know that COVID affects your respiratory system.
No matter the variant, it impacts your respiratory system.
It's a respiratory infectious disease. So you never know, if you're going to be on the mild, the asymptomatic, mild, moderate, or severe end of it. And so when you even look at a lot of the cases of individuals that end up on the ventilator, it's individuals that have compromised lungs, it's individuals that are at risk of that collapse, or have some other respiratory illness that goes alongside of that, which could be flu or pneumonia or flu and pneumonia.
Well, before we pivot to the Supreme Court, Dr. Deborah Verholden, you are heading up the NICE program from Michigan State University, in which you are really helping us to understand how important it is for us to, number one, know that we as adults need vaccines. I thought it ended in childhood. Quite frankly, I really did. I really did. I did not know until you brought this program to me, and I'm working with you on it. And now we're seeing the impact of closing down the system last year. At least 37 million. You said the numbers are substantially higher, and you suspect that they are, and I do trust your suspicions. People haven't gotten their vaccines. People haven't gotten their mammograms. People haven't gotten all kinds of tests and vaccines that they need. How do we proceed on vaccines now? I mean, do you call your primary care physician? What if you don't have a primary care physician? I have a couple of minutes for you.
So I absolutely encourage people get caught up, and you can do it. And it's interesting, right? Because you think, well, when we're doing telehealth, I've been surprised at how much you can actually do with telehealth. We had a medical issue in my house with one of my children. The doctor called us in, the lab work to the lab. We went to the lab. The lab took urine samples, blood samples, all of that. They knew exactly what was needed because she, called the order in or faxed it over or whatever. And doing a telehealth visit and then going directly to the lab we were able to get the problem diagnosed. She had a follow-up telehealth appointment the next day. The doctor was able to call a prescription in and then give her the remedies that she needed to implement now to help ease her symptoms while the medication had a chance to kick in. There's just so much that's possible. So I'm encouraging people, get caught up. I got caught up. I never even had colonoscopy, but during COVID, the criteria changed and they dropped the age down to 45 if you have family history. And I have a family history of colon cancer. So I was like, let me go get my colonoscopy. I hadn't had a mammogram in years. I finally mustered up the courage and said, I'm going to get my mammogram. And then they shut all that stuff down. So I then ultimately went and I just did it. I just went and I got it. So, you know, I encourage people, if you don't have a primary health care provider, get one. How do you get one? If you're uninsured, you reach out to your local federally qualified health center, uninsured or underinsured. They will take you regardless of your insurance status and provide you, primary health care preventive services, screenings, and all of that stuff. And in most instances, it will be at no or very relatively low cost to you. They will also build a bridge for you to your local health plan who can support you in getting insurance. You know, I keep telling people affordable health care became a lot more affordable during COVID, and I don't know how long that's going to last, right? The bar for income went way up, so people can be making about 2.5 times what they were making prior to COVID and qualify and be paying a fraction of the premium. Many people are paying $500-$600 a month. Now you're able to get affordable health care for many people if for no cost to up to some number under $100. It's been transformative for people, and we've seen a lot more people enroll, and then they keep extending the enrollment period. So, you know, go check out your local federally qualified health center. If you don't have insurance or you're underinsured, check out your local health plan so you can get that and get caught up on those things. See, there's a thing called lag time. It's the time between when you have the onset of a disease and when it gets diagnosed. And we know in Black and brown communities and poorer communities and oftentimes in rural communities, because they've got a whole different set of access barriers and some related, it takes longer for people to get diagnosed. And oftentimes, the longer a disease festers unmanaged, it tends to produce more harm and you have a much worse outcome, right? The earlier you can diagnose something, the more likely you are to be able to treat it effectively, prevent it from spreading, prevent it from impacting other systems, and preventing it from causing you death or illness. You know, so staying up on this stuff, preventing problems in the first place, and then keeping, having a good course of treatment for things is in your best interest. So I just encourage people to get caught up. And the last thing I want to say about this issue about exercise, and I was waiting, I'm like, oh, Dr. Knight did mention that. You know, when I got COVID, she was like the second person I called, right? My first friend is basically like an infectious disease physician. And then I called Dr. Knighton. And Dr. Knighton said, get yourself, I said, listen, I want to give my body the best chance to heal. And I was very fatigued. That was like the headache and the fatigue were my first two big symptoms. And then the sore throat came very closely thereafter. I got what's called an incentive spirometer. It's a little lung exerciser. Santita, you remember we talked about it. And I've been in other platforms where I talk to people about what to do if you get COVID to keep yourself healthy. And literally, I spent probably about $25 on Amazon, ordered all the things that I needed, and was able to recover at home just fine. Now, don't get me wrong. That's how COVID acted in my body. So some of it is, how I treated myself, but also just how COVID worked for me, right? And it's a little different for each person. But there are things that people can do, because she's right. You don't want to just lay around and do nothing, right? Because shallow breathing gives way to all kinds of other lung infections and other problems. But there are also things that people can do short of hopping on the treadmill or going to the gym while they have COVID, which I personally would not recommend for people either.
Thank you. Don't put the droplets in there, everybody. Whew, let's do this pivot, but we're going to be talking more about these vaccines and what we need to do to increase our health. next week and just in coming weeks, because this is very, 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 very important. Stay right there and let little India hear this. This is a conversation for her, because this is a new world that this baby is stepping into. And Dr. Knighton's children, they're stepping into a world that, our parents have paid a heck of a price, and we are enjoying the bounty. We didn't break down the doors. We are walking across the bridges that they built. So when we say, oh my goodness, nothing has changed, that is absolutely untrue. You're not living in a Jim Crow world. You're not. Something happened, the dam broke, and you have had a black president. Did you have blowback? Of course you did. You have a black vice president. You have women who can actually get on tickets. Are you kidding me? That didn't happen before. Shirley Chisholm said that the greater hurdle for her when she ran for president, greater than race, was sexism. So let's talk about this consequential potential nomination to the Supreme Court. Justice Stephen Breyer made his announcement yesterday. He said, you got to govern, you have to not legislate, you really have to just exercise your role as a judge with your head and your heart. I was really moved by that. But there's something very interesting. You cannot filibuster. Now, they're not going to be able to do what they did with voting rights. You're not going to be able to filibuster this nominee. Beginning in 2013, Democrats and Republicans together enacted changes that shield a nomination to the high court from a filibuster. So this is going to be very, very interesting. Of course, we've got our Legal Eagle, of course, Legal Q&A with CK right here on the Santita Jackson Show every Wednesday. But, of course, she's on WAOK in Atlanta every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, the brilliant attorney Gerald Griggs, civil rights fighter. We love him. Tremendous activist who's been calling for, with NAACP in Atlanta, he's been calling for the president to sign an executive order to do what the Senate would not do. Boom, we got a lot on the table. Attorney C.K. Hoffman, let me ask you this. President promised yesterday, he said, I am going to nominate a black woman to the high court. And these women they have interesting backgrounds. Ms. Childs out of South Carolina didn't come from the Ivy League, interestingly enough. Ketanji Brown Jackson, public defender. Very, very interesting. Why is it important that we have a black woman, and particularly a progressive black woman, a black woman who's had, a diverse set of experiences, named to the high court or nominated, go through this nomination process?
Morning, Santita, and to our wonderful Santita Jackson family. It's incredibly important for us to have a eminently qualified, stellar African-American woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, because quite simply that voice is lacking. When we look, it's a remarkable thing that we could say that this country has gone centuries without having a black woman sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, given the demographic that a black woman represents. But most importantly, when you're a justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, whether you're conservative or liberal, you have to have the ability to speak to your colleagues, to educate your colleagues on important issues that concern this country. We want someone who is, to use young folks' words, woke, and someone who represents our community in a stellar way. And both of the two, there are many, many candidates throughout this country that could pass muster, that have the qualifications that could serve. But of those being considered, the top two are the two that you mentioned. Judge Ketanji Jackson Brown, and Judge Childs out of South Carolina. Both of them bring unique characteristics. Judge Brown has the more traditional, if you will, even though she served as a public defender, which is phenomenal, because that means she has a breadth of experience, Santita, we don't hear and see on the U.S. Supreme Court. And that is one thing I will say, the Biden administration, because I've sent, and when I was president of the National Bar Association, many names to diversify the federal bench. And the criteria they were looking for was non-traditional. They wanted younger people, first of all. They wanted people who had a diverse background, served as public defenders for the federal
administration articulated early on that they wanted people who brought a different breadth of experience. And so that's what we're seeing in both these candidates. You don't have to be an Ivy League educated person to make significant contributions to this country. I think it's great that you go to the school of your choice, recognized school, but you have to be a very serious jurist, a scholar, someone who reasons, who thinks through the issues, and someone, from my perspective, who understands community engagement, understands the issues that are of concern to my community, to our community, to all Americans, and should be certainly. Women's rights, reproductive rights, civil rights, voting rights, immigration laws, every single major issue that impacts our lives. Those issues are coming before the U.S. Supreme Court. I want someone who thinks and acts and reasons in a progressive way, and who has the ability to talk to other justices because she has a strong voice, a strong mind, is highly educated, is exposed, and knows her task. She knows her trade. And both of those candidates would meet that criteria. But I will say that South Carolina, Judge Childs, we know that Congressman Clyburn is making a point of saying this is who it needs to be, because she's one of his favorite person to serve in that position.
And so is G.K. Butterfield, who's a former judge, who's about to retire.
Absolutely. So I think that that's going to be something for President Biden to consider.
Wow. Attorney Griggs, what do you make of this? And last week, I had you on the show. You got us all fired up, and I'm still fired up about an executive order, right? And this is like, they're coming at the same time. Of course, we have to wait until February, but, nominating this, a progressive, a broadly experienced Black woman to the U.S. Supreme Court never happened before. 230 years, 115 white male justices, only 7 have been women or people of color. 5 women, 1 Hispanic woman, 2 African-American men. So that's the history of the court. But should we be pushing for, what's the significance of that? And should we be still pushing for an executive order on our voting rights?
Absolutely. And I think it's historic. I'm supremely excited about this historic moment that we sit in, but we absolutely need to do both. We need to continue to push the Biden administration for an executive order to protect voting rights, but also place a highly qualified African-American woman on the high court. And I respect a lot of the selections, but I would also push the administration a little bit further in that highly qualified African-American female needs to come from Georgia, because Georgia delivered the election and the Senate. So there are several highly qualified individuals, one of which Gerald Griggs, I'm sorry. One of which has already been mentioned, and that's the Honorable Judge Gardner down in the Middle Circuit. She'd be an excellent candidate. She has the pedigree and the experience. But there are 2 other women in this state who I think should be up for consideration. I think Justice Leah Ward Sears should be up for consideration for this position. She's already made history on the Georgia Supreme Court, being the first African-American female on the Georgia Supreme Court. She's eminently qualified. And then there's Judge Eleanor Ross, who sits in the Northern District of Georgia. Those 3 women, I think, should take strong consideration. I respect the opinions of Representative Clyburn, but Georgia delivered the Senate. Georgia delivered the election. The president needs to deliver for Georgia voting rights and the first African-American female justice on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, what do you think about some people who would say you're asking for too much at one time? Let's just get this done.
I think that they were asking too much of Georgia. We were placed in a peculiar situation where we had to deliver to save the soul of the country, and we did exactly that. And I believe that an African-American female justice from this state would do so much to save the soul of the court.
Why Georgia? Why? What is it? What would she bring?
Again, we deliver. I think that the 3 candidates I just spoke of would deliver a breadth of knowledge, the experience, the dedication, the understanding of the grounding of the American experience, the African American experience, the female experience, and the necessary legal acumen to make sure that the court stays balanced. It focuses on the law. It's not an activist court. It reads the law and interprets the law the way the law is written, not carving out exceptions that bend. And so I think that it's time for that perspective. You know, we do understand that the court right now has a conservative lean, but with a few of the candidates I just named, you would probably get 40 years of legal experience on the court, which could shape a new generation of the court. I would also point out that the court has missed a civil rights activist on the court in the vein of Thurgood or in the vein of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So I'd also submit that Sherilyn Ifill, if they don't go with Georgia, Sherilyn Ifill is the choice because she fully understands voting rights, women's rights, civil rights, and she understands how to be a strong voice, pushing back and leading into a new generation. So those would be my suggestions to the administration. But again, the administration needs to deliver for Georgia, and they need to do it right now.
Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. What do you want out of this new Supreme Court justice? President Biden has said, CK, I'm going to name an African-American woman, but naming a black woman is not enough. What quality should she have? We have a black Supreme Court justice, Clarence Thomas. No, but he is not a Thurgood. Oh, yeah, I just don't grab your stomach. You'll be okay.
No, and you know, Santita, I have to say this. All of the people, and my brother Joe Griggs, I'm so sorry, I just had to say a little something while he was preaching there. Gerald, you're absolutely right. All three of the candidates he's mentioned, two of them I know very well. They are bad to the bone, exceptional, without a question, and should be considered. We don't see their names pop up, but they should be considered and they probably are being considered on some level. I would say, and all three of them could serve this country honorably, our communities honorably, and it would be phenomenal if they were on the bench. But I do believe the two that we mentioned before also would do justice. So I want to be clear on that in terms of, but we've got to push on all levels. We don't need to get excited about one thing that President Biden does that he committed to doing, because there are a lot of things that he committed to doing that haven't come to fruition yet, and I'm not saying it's all his fault. But on the executive order,
I'm not saying it's not.
To me is a no-brainer.
You know, I mean, my thing is,
no-brainer to me.
You know, it was a campaign promise.
Do it quickly.
I mean, it was a campaign promise. You know, come on.
But there's some things that are exclusively within the control of the executive, of the chief executive officer, of the president of the United States, and that would be those executive orders. And so I think he needs to do that quickly in a hurry.
Absolutely.
Because we know there's not going to be any federal law that's passed anytime soon. So, but we don't need to stop there. We don't need to stop there.
I've got 10 seconds.
Because a lot of, so I would say this, we've got to push on all fronts. This is a great time in history that we can have discussion. And that's what's important. And we have to act on it.
Everybody, let's talk about this. Should we push for this black woman on the Supreme Court who's a progressive and vote executive order on voting rights at the same time? Or do you think that's just being too much? I don't think it's too much. I think it's just enough. Because we need our vote and we need this perspective on the Supreme Court. Both and, not either or. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278 on the Santita Jackson Show. We're streaming on WCPT820.com and AM950radio.com. And meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. We're having a great time today. Back in just a minute. All right, you guys. Boom.
And you know, Santita, there's so much discussion out there about this. It was brought to my attention. I haven't had the chance to focus on it this morning yet. That a professor at my alma mater, Georgetown Law School, made a disparaging comment to the effect that there were no qualified, no qualified African American front runners out there. You see, and he needs to go. And by the way, he needs to go. He needs to go. He needs to go. And I already
he said this. He said the same thing. Okay, good.
So he just needs to go. He just needs to go. And I'm going to address that with Georgetown.
Thank you.
Just like I addressed in a group.
No, and put it on the radio.
We addressed that professor. Right. We addressed that professor who said that the worst students in law school are black students at Georgetown.
He needs to be pushed out.
That professor.
He doesn't need to be teaching law.
He's going to be pushed out.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be teaching law.
He doesn't need to be teaching anything.
See, you know what? Black people have to start making people pay for insulting us, for diminishing us, for trying to kill our spirits and our opportunities. You need to make them pay. Everybody else makes people pay. There's some people you don't cross. And I'm not talking, vengeance is the Lord's. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about realpolitik, real politics. You must let people, you don't mess with me. I'm not the one. Now, if you're going to do, and you should do that in your personal relationships too, and you should transfer that to your institutional relationships. Don't let people play with you. I told you about cross-species love. I don't play with puppies, so they don't lick me in my mouth. I don't play with people. I'm a grown woman. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. On that whole, I told you, cross-species love, I ain't into it. No.
Wow. Okay.
Take it. Huh?
And let me just say this. With the cross-species love, I have a dog. You have to deorient your dogs in that way. Because if you take them to a vet, if you take them to a little housing thing, little daycare, whatever, they believe in the cross-species love.
I love it.
So you have to deorient your dogs. Like you have to reorient your children when they come back from school if they're in certain environments. You really do. You have to reorient, reposition their mindset. So anyway, I just had to.
No, I'm feeling you because I'm feeling pets. I love it, and I'm with Sally Struthers is with the sick children in the middle of the night. ASPCA. I'm with the strings and the lovely music, and they're crying over the animals. They don't cry over children and human beings, but that's another story. I ain't mad at you because I'm not with abusing any living creature. How about that? Now, that having been said, you don't play with people and you don't let them play with you. Stop it. And you need to stop being afraid of people. Stop giving people excuses. People keep saying black people are the most forgiving people in the world. Yeah, we really are forgiving. But more than that, we're excusing. Because if we were more forgiving, we'd have peace. Okay? We have a lot of pain. And we give people passes. Because we're like, well, sometimes our own expectations have been diminished. That's why our leaders have been spiritual leaders who give us the gift of restoration so we can understand, no, we deserve this. You deserve. Yeah, you deserve your voting rights and a progressive voice on the Supreme Court. You deserve all of it. And make it happen, because guess what? They sure were begging in 2020. Hello? When they needed your vote, when Joe Biden needed you to save his candidacy in South Carolina. Oh, no, you need to come on through. Yeah. That has nothing to do with politics. I told you, this ain't no date, it's a destination. I'm not falling in love with any politician or politics. No, I want you to deliver for me. And then we got something to talk about. Okay. Is Daryl Jones there? Griggs, I mean this. I'm serious. We have to help. We have to help, Come on.
I know you made it. And that same professor made the similar statements when Justice Sotomayor was being vetted and confirmed.
They sure did.
So this is nothing new. And I think what needs to be pushed to the forefront, and I agree with you, they need to be held accountable. They should stop looking at minority candidates and black candidates as less than. We are actually greater than. That's right. Because it takes 2 times more the quality and the work to get to this level. So for people to be saying that there are no qualified African-American female candidates for the position that is absolutely hogwash.
Well, and horrible. And you know what? You need to be kicked out of the academy. You teach someplace else, but you don't need to be in a law school. You need to get out. You need to be put out.
Yes.
Put out.
Back in 1 minute.
Put out. People want to say that the Holocaust was a lie. You need to get put out. You don't need to be teaching in school. You can do whatever you want to do, but you ain't going to do it here.
That's so true.
No. I mean, look, I'm not telling you. I'm not trying to take you off the planet. I don't do that either. But one thing you're not going to do, you're not going to spread this garbage and these lies here. I won't let you do it.
30.
And I'm going to let everybody know your name so you can't get hired. You cannot hear. No, you got to go. Look, don't play with people. Don't let them play with you. Don't let them play with you. Don't let them play. Ooh, it's too much. And I'm going to go right into, remember, before we go into the conversation, I've got to go into my live read, okay? That I need you to record and send to me.
Okay.
Thank you. Lord.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to hear your voice today. We are talking about the Supreme Court, naming a black woman who is a progressive to the Supreme Court. How important is it? What kind of background should she have? I want to know your thoughts. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 763-763-9278. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, or meet us on Facebook. We're streaming there as well. The Santita Jackson and Friends page. See, I couldn't leave you out. Don't go to Santita Jackson. Go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Meet me on Instagram, Santita Jackson IG, or at Santita J on Twitter. Friend me over there as well. We're going to be talking about the Supreme Court and voting rights. Last week, we were talking about getting an executive order to get our voting rights, what the Senate was not able to do. Should we be doing both at the same time? Absolutely. Gerald Griggs is holding on to that from the NAACP in Atlanta. And of course, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push and immediate past president of National Bar Association. And of course, we're going to have Attorney Darrell Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition. We're going to have the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition at the bottom of the hour. Hey. I love it. So let's get to a few of these headlines so that we can get to the rest of the show. In Chicago, boy, it's been snowing. It's beautiful, and we're going to get some more snow today with a high of 24 degrees. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 11 degrees above zero. God bless you, Minneapolis, St. Paul, partly cloudy. Tumultuous week on Wall Street, everybody. Swings of 1,000 points, it seems like every other day. Well, things kind of settled down yesterday. We'll see what's going to happen at the end of the day. But yesterday, the Dow closed down, 7 points. The S&P 500 closed down 23 points. And the NASDAQ closed down 189 points. In the NBA, the Timberwolves, where they fell to the Warriors. The Warriors 124, the Timberwolves 115. And tonight, the Bulls will be in San Antonio facing off against the Spurs. We're going to have an active night in NHL, in the world of hockey. The Avalanche will be playing at Chicago, and the Wild will be playing the New York Rangers. All right, everybody. Millions of Americans are behind in their flu, hepatitis, chickenpox, and other routine vaccinations as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. You got to get them, everybody. Adults and adolescents have missed more than 37 million routine vaccinations, according to a healthcare analysis. Experts are stressing the importance of getting up to date, and we're stressing that too on the Santita Jackson Show. Praying for all of our brothers and sisters out in the Northeast. A bomb cyclone is expected your way. They're expecting in Boston and Rhode Island 12 to 24 inches of snow, gust of wind up to 60 miles per hour. They might even get 14 inches of snow in Connecticut and New York City. Oh, it is going to be a mess. More than 55 million Americans are currently under winter storm watches and travel advisories, and they are saying many people are going to lose power. Do whatever you can to stay well. You know what? On the show, we are really working with you to try and save your homes. If you don't have good credit, if you don't have any credit, if you have had some financial setbacks, guess what? If you reach out to Team Hochberg, they can help you to get on your feet. They can help you to get that loan. They can help you to build your credit or rebuild your financial standing so that you can buy a house, so that you can keep your house. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. See, if you're purchasing a home, if you need to refinance your existing home, which is why home ownership is so important, because it is the center of your wealth. If you're securing a VA loan, some people need reverse mortgages. Call, Team Hochberg. Speaking of credit, Mark had a credit score of 670, which is not very high. He contacted another lender and they refused to help him. They said, there's nothing we can do to help you. So he reached out to Team Hochberg, and guess what? Team Hochberg got his condo FHA approved. I got him an FHA approved loan. And then they got him some more money so that he could use that FHA loan to pay off his credit. And he is now paying $500 a month less than he was before. That's right. He went to one credit lender. They couldn't help him. They said, you don't have an FHA loan. And so he went to Team Hochberg. They said, we're going to get you your FHA loan. Not only that, we're going to get enough money for you to cancel your debt, and we're going to bring your housing payments down by $500 a month, $6,000 a year. That's right. They've been helping thousands of WCPT listeners, but they can also help you up in Minneapolis, St. Paul at AM 950 radio. So I want you to call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com so that you can save your homes. There is no reason for you not to be able to have a home in America today. Everybody, let's talk about this Supreme Court. Let's talk about it. I want to know, what do you think about President Biden's pledge to name an African-American woman, a progressive African-American woman, to this post? And what about our voting rights? We were talking about that last week. We were fired up about it, about them. And we said, we need an executive order so that we can get the president, and the president could sign it. He could sign it today, to do what the Senate did not do. Should we be doing both at the same time? Should we be pushing to get someone who might not have gone to the Ivy League, someone who really represents a Black woman's perspective? That is a bottom-up perspective. Someone who understands single moms, someone who understands the struggles of her husband or partner, trying to make it from day to day, keeping your head above water, making it any way that you can. Yeah, we need that on the Supreme Court. And joining you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Attorney Gerald Griggs, we've got Attorney Darrell Jones, Transformative Justice Coalition. He's become a regular on the show, and we love that. Attorney Darrell Jones, what do you make of this? Now it's official. Well, kind of, almost. President Biden said, I am going to name a Black woman as the nominee to the Supreme Court. What do you make of that? And what do you make of, is the voting rights fight kind of lost in the sauce here?
Well, good morning, Santita. And again, thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for continuing the conversation with regards to voting rights and adding to the conversation now the Supreme Court selection of a Black woman. Kudos to President Joe Biden for doing what he said he was going to do and sticking to his promise of nominating a Black woman to the Supreme Court, that he's going to do it. So now the question becomes, once we have that in place, once we have the nominee in place, is it too much? Absolutely not. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We know that in pushing for the executive order regarding voting rights and suing states and things along those nature, that's got to happen. This is a multi-tiered government. The government has all these different departments. There's no reason why we cannot concentrate on both of these issues at the same time. It's not too much. It's not too early. It's way overdue. We shouldn't be talking in 2022 about the first Black woman getting onto the Supreme Court. Way overdue. But be that as it may, we are where we are. And right now, I think it's extremely important that, that we be out front, pushing for whoever the nominee is to be placed onto the Supreme Court. And from the list that we have seen so far, it certainly appears as though every Black woman that has been mentioned is someone that is really substantive, just a very solid selection. So I think that it's important, and I know that you had spoken a little earlier, with regards to the Ivy Towers. Do we need to have someone that's not in the Ivy Tower? And let's understand that, being in the Ivy Tower doesn't make you a superior intellect.
Would you stop. Say that one more time, please.
Being in the Ivy Tower, coming from the Ivy League schools, does not make you a superior intellect. What it may mean is that you were grandfathered in, or were selected in because someone in your family attended there, not because of your own merit. So there's a lot of factors that go into the whole Ivy League thing. But what's important is this, and CK and Gerald Griggs both, I believe, will underscore this. The most important thing for a person appearing before a court is to be certain that they are being heard by their peers, that their experiences that are varied are taken into consideration with regards to the justice which is merited out from the court. In order for the Supreme Court, in my opinion, to be able to do that, it's got to have a myriad of experiences educationally on the bench. And that's what I think is added to the bench when you have the non-Ivy Leaguers that are there. They're just as qualified. Everyone else is the same degrees, the same qualifications, the same bar exams are being passed. All of that is the same. So what is going to be different is the person's experience and what they're bringing to the bench. So I certainly support the expansion intellectually and backgrounds of what's being brought to the bench with regards to a non-Ivy Leaguer coming to the Supreme Court. But, I also say, and I'll say it again, that there's no reason that we're not fighting and continue to fight for the executive orders for voting rights at the same time. We can do this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again.
Okay. I mean, what should that look like? What should we be doing? Because now everybody's, averted their gaze, if you will. We've shifted the focus, and I'm excited. I think this is great. But I want to see the quality. Quite frankly, I want to see what these persons are about. Because being Black and being a woman is not enough. And these are all substantial women. But I want to make that point. Because we got Clarence Thomas.
And Santita, and let's just, while we're on the Ivy tick, and I'm not saying anything. I went to Smith College. That's an Ivy League women's college.
The sister schools.
Anything, the 7. I'm not saying anything about that. But the truth of the matter is that should not be the criteria. The best justice that I believe that's ever been on the U.S. Supreme Court went to Howard University. That was Thurgood Marshall.
Yes.
So let's just drop the mic and stop right there.
Boom.
So we don't need to get caught up on what school, the this and that. We need to be caught on the quality of the candidate, the experience of the candidate, the background of the candidate, the positions that they've taken, their judicial temperament, all of those things that the front runners have. And let's just add in the 3 that Gerald Griggs has suggested, coming right here from the state of Georgia, also have. But I could list about 50 Black women jurists who could comfortably meet the criteria. Why? Because when I was president of the NBA, we vetted candidates and submitted names for people to be on the federal bench, to move on the federal bench. And by the way, at least one candidate is one of those people that we recommended who successfully moved that way. And we also knew this day would come. So there are many, many of them in every jurisdiction. And I will say that the front runners who have been identified, including, I felt to me, are some of the top candidates. But there are others, like Gerald said, the folks in Georgia, although I have seen Leslie Abrams, Garner, I've seen her name there, Stacey Abrams' sister. But I think that there are more in Georgia because Georgia just has being the breadbasket of the civil rights movement. and being in the South, it does breed a certain amount of, I don't know what it is, that combination of characteristics for a Black woman to rise under these circumstances in the judicial system. So we have some extraordinary jurists who are qualified. The three that Gerald mentioned, but some others as well. So I just want to put a perspective on that Ivy thing.
Well, I think it's very important because it's like we're stuck there, and genius did not begin or end in the Ivy Leagues. I mean, genius is all over town, all over town. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if you want a corporate slant, because that's what the Ivies give you. But if you want to be a trial lawyer, let's follow Willie Gary. Where did he go to school? You understand what I'm saying?
And let me tell you, speaking of that, Willie had this expression that he used to say when he says down when he speaks. He said, he went to Shaw University and North Carolina Central, two historically Black colleges, North Carolina Central for law school. And he signs checks every 2 weeks from people who went to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. How about that?
How about that?
So, so the reality of life is this. I've been a lawyer for 35 years. Oh, my goodness.
Was it 25?
It's hard to...
Really? I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's hard to pass the 35 years when you're 37, but there we have it. But Santita, I say this because, no disrespect to anyone, I have been up against, practiced with, been aligned with many an Ivy League educated fool. So let's not get too confused. It's not where you went to school, it's the breadth of your experience and what you bring to the table, whether you're a trial lawyer or any kind of lawyer. And that's not to be disparaging against Ivy League institutions. I am happy for anyone to be at any institution that works. But I'm telling you, that's not the barometer of a great lawyer, of a great jurist.
Well, I hear you. And conversely, I don't want non-Ivy League schools to be disparaged. And by not naming them, by not considering them, you are doing just that. So, no, it's time for us to have that conversation too. We can have all these conversations at one time because everybody's got to pass the same bar exam. And several of our friends who went to Ivy League institutions did not pass that bar exam the first time. Mic drop on that. But they're great lawyers. But it is what it is. Attorney Griggs, where do you see this going? Where should this be going? Because I see voting rights. I hear you and Daryl Jones saying, hey, we got to do all of this at the same time.
I see more activism. I see more marches and protests and calls and showing up in Washington to push both issues. And my hope is that, the confirmation will be smooth. But, I've been watching the last several confirmations, and they aren't as smooth as they used to be. So my hope is that there will be bipartisan support. Because if the Republican Party, which continues to say that it's the party of Lincoln, tries to throw dirt and besmudge an African-American female ascending to a historic position on the Supreme Court, that's going to be a mark that mars them for 100 years. So, my hope is that people realize that, like Daryl said, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. This executive order is low-hanging fruit. So, again, I give President Biden kudos, as everybody else has, for keeping his campaign promise. But he has some other campaign promises that he has to keep, and he has to keep them right now. So I think that what this looks like is that, confirmation hearings will occur as soon as the president makes his selection. We will support that selection, whoever she may be. I believe that everyone named, and the three that I named, have the requisite experience, the education, the judicial temperament, and to speak on the Ivy League mystique. There's only one law school. There's only one law school in the country that's produced a Supreme Court justice and a president, and it's not an Ivy League. So, my issue with all of that is let the best candidate with the judicial experience and the judicial education and the breadth of knowledge rise. And I think that, that will be a Black woman who is a force to reckon with. Again, I'm leaning towards a Georgia candidate like Judge Garner or Judge Ross or Justice Sears, definitely Justice Sears. and or Cheryl and Eiffel or someone like that, because I just think that they bring an experience that's unique to the American experience that is currently not on the court. And so when we're having these conversations about, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, we need a voice on that court that speaks for 40 million Americans that are currently trying to push America to be great and not to go backward. And so, when you had what I would call the court packing occurring under the Trump administration, when he packed on 3 justices and 1 justice in 8 days, I don't want to hear from the conservatives, oh, we need to take our time with this. Y'all didn't take your time when you packed the court. And so I think selections that we've heard and the ones that I've offered up already have the experience and the know-how and the judicial acumen to fill that seat in a way that they potentially could become at some point the Chief Justice and then swing the court in a progressive pattern that would include all of America and will grow the court's reputation and its respect and its fair issuance of justice in this country.
We're talking with Attorney Daryl Griggs, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, and Attorney Daryl Jones about the Supreme Court. We're going to be having Attorney Barbara Arnwine up in just a few minutes. Of course, she and Attorney Jones are from the Transformative Justice Coalition. He's the chairman of the board. She's the founder and president. Attorney Jones, what about, I was pleasantly surprised to see Cheryl and Eiffel from the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund put in the mix. I've got a couple of minutes here. Because she is from the Thurgood Marshall tradition, what would she bring to the court?
Oh, wow. Yeah, Sherilyn Eiffel is one of the people that she just brings such a treasure trove of knowledge with regards to, civil rights, voting rights, the openness of the system. She's going to bring all of that to the court. She knows the court. She's been in front of the courts. She's a litigator, so she has you heard CK speak of the judicial temperament. So she has that judicial temperament. She knows the workings of the court. She can hit the ground running. She knows it that well. But she also brings with it the realistic experiences of being, a Black woman in American society, and she doesn't lose touch with that. And she'll bring that with her. She'll bring that practical experience, and she will not divorce herself from it as she goes through the decision-making process. So, I wholeheartedly endorse Cheryl, and she would just be, I just think, a very welcome addition to the Supreme Court, and you will have a very strong voice at that table for African American and Black, brown, and people of color issues that that's going to be there and is going to stand strong. I did want to add, Santita, one thing to what Gerald Griggs had said with regards to us, chewing gum and walking at the same time, dealing with the executive order and the Supreme Court. If things go awry, with regards to who the president is appointing, or if things go awry with regards to the Senate Republicans and dealing with the Black woman that pushing to get on the Supreme Court, we'll be out there fighting anyway for the executive order, protesting for the executive order. We can just pick up the other side and just keep going. So we need people to show up in D.C., and be certain that we're pushing for the executive order, that we're pushing for the 15 nominee. With regards to the executive order, we want folks to call that 202-456-1111 at the White House and tell the president to push forward on the executive order to be certain that full voting rights are restored. 202-456-1111. So Cheryl and Eiffel will be wonderful, Santita.
You know what? And you got to make him do it. That's what FDR told A. Philip Randolph when they were trying to get Black people to fight in the World War, and Black people were reluctant. They said, "We're getting lynched. We're living in Jim Crow. Are you serious?" He said, "You know what, A. Philip Randolph?" After he teased him about his brilliant elocution, he said, "What school and Harvard did you come from?" He didn't go to Harvard. Thank you very much. He said, "Look, you know what? You all are absolutely right with all of your concerns and demands. Now you need to go back out in the streets and march and make me do it. LBJ did not function in a vacuum. We were marching and we made him do it. And not just in D.C., you got to do it everywhere. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show, let's talk about getting a black progressive woman on the Supreme Court. Yes, that is my caveat. And pushing for voting rights, all at the same time. Back in just a minute. You all are great. Thank you so much. I know Chappelle's coming on. Do not beg her for biscuits. Thank you very much.
I'm not begging.
You know what? Daryl is embarrassing me.
Situation.
Doing it.
Well, look, no. And when I say I'm not begging, it's not because it's not beggable. Let's be clear on what I'm saying. Because it's beggable. I just want to make sure that I'm very, very strong on this. Myself, and I, COVID allowed one not to have to wear suits every day, let's just say hypothetically, because all you had to do was wear a jacket, let's just say hypothetically. So, hypothetically,
as long as you did not stand on camera.
Camera, right.
Do not stand up on camera.
No, because all kinds of situations have happened when people forgot about that. But I have to hypothetically, theoretically, and really, I'm on a mission, and that has required me modification of my dietary design. But on special occasions, we have to just go for broke. And if I have to go for broke, you want to go for broke, like with Pearl. That's what I'm talking about. Ooh. But because otherwise, I would be on a daily basis trying to get Pearl's food. But on a special occasion, I can make that exception once I have addressed the COVIDization of the realities of the COVIDization of the realities of not wearing a full suit every day. I had a deposition yesterday. When I go into the office, all that. I was like, I'm just so tired with these dry cleaners. I'm switching. Look, streaking my skirts and stuff. I pay a lot of them. So looking good. I'm looking good. I'm just going. I need to get rid. They're not on the ball. They don't have this stuff. Yeah. Well, the reality is they are on the ball. But as they look at you and say, we just do we can right up in here. So that's the precursor to the Chappelle discussion. But on special occasions, yes.
Well, we're gonna.
I'm gonna be in Chicago pretty soon, so I might have to make an exception for it. But I will resist eating much for 2 days before, so that I can do what I have to do when I get to Chicago.
Oh, Chappelle, you there?
Yes, I am. And CK, let me know so I can have it ready for just
Thursday. What? Yes.
Santita and I, as a matter of fact, Santita and I are gonna be together. So
Thursday.
Santita, that's what we need to do. So let me see.
I'm supposed to bring Santita some greens and some green beans. So what kind of meat you want? What kind of meat you want with it? It's cornbread.
It sounds like we got to make a flight to Chicago.
And Gerald Griggs, if you ask right, I might bring a little thing back with me on the plane.
Yeah, please.
Meet you at the airport.
Please bring it back. I'm sure you can get it through security, but I think I might be up in Chicago in August to send another message to the South Side. So I might have to come on up there.
Yeah, I promise you.
No, and you should do that. You should do that. Mm. But in the interim, I might have to just bring a little care package. But it may not make it through the plane ride.
Because tell them about those ribs. Those ribs from Kevin Gray. Hello.
Oh, see, that's another thing.
She went into South Carolina
20 seconds.
and picked up some ribs, and she drove. As she was leaving South Carolina, she picked up some Mo ribs, not more. Mo ribs, Miss Smith College, Miss Georgetown.
Right,
got it.
But let me tell you, it wasn't just the ribs. It was the
Coming back in 5 seconds.
The banana pudding with multiple desserts, multiple meals.
Chappelle does that too.
Vegetables. I know, that's what I'm saying.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love and It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station at AM 950 radio. As we are talking about celebrations by us, before we get back to the voting rights and the executive order that we need, the president, that we need him to execute in order to protect our voting rights, and of course, getting a black woman on the Supreme Court. We've been talking with Chaparral and about Chaparral and this food by celebrations by us, because CK is going to be in town next week, and we're going to get some food from Chaparral. Oh my gosh. Okay, Chaparral, celebrations by us. 708-526-4546. What's going on, Killa?
Yes, Santita. We are gonna set Miss CK out. I promise you. We're gonna have you some food and dessert. We're gonna make you some peach cobbler and some banana pudding. We got you, girl.
Thank you. What about sweet tea? I mean, I hate to sweet tea too.
Hey, we got you. What's the that? We got
sweet tea in Chicago?
Yes.
We got you. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We got you. Homemade. Everything fresh.
Brewed. Hello. Thank you. Nice and strong.
Ooh.
Not that see-through tea. All right.
That might
What's
come
with
this
you?
weekend.
Santita, celebrations by us. We not only have your mac and cheese, your green beans, your greens, as well as also your smothered chicken, your smothered pork chops, and your smothered beef. So we also do our desserts, our banana pudding, as well as also our peach cobbler, homemade cookies, German chocolate cake, red velvet cake, whatever it is that you need, we can set it out for you. And we are a complete event planning company as well. So we do balloon arches, floral arrangements, backdrops, whatever it is that you need. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546, and hit us up at celebrationsbyus.org. Thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, no worries. And go on and make a quick comment about the Supreme Court. Come on, you can't hold back.
Like I said, I was waiting for CK yesterday, but I know she had to run, but I just feel that we do need someone who is progressive on the bench. And I'm not even, we talked about it a little bit yesterday about even expanding the court in order to fit our needs. We have so much out here as Black people that we need to have done. So I think that we have to continue to push Biden in the progressive agenda. They said that I was listening this morning that they're reigniting the Build Back Better plan. I'm like, we need to start removing some contracts for West Virginia and Arizona. We need to, I know that we talked about getting the marches that are coming up. We have to highlight that. We have to highlight that because we have to believe that we have to push them to do what we need them to do, because they're going to come back to us in November, 2 weeks before the election, and say, well, we know we didn't get all this, but can you still vote for us? No, sir, I cannot. I cannot support you. So I'm around. Did you say around?
Yes.
To let them know I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I heard that.
Yes.
If I might be able to respond to Chaparral, sometimes the expression that I use that captures what might happen in November is what happened was. It's going to be a what happened moment. What happened? What happened? So, if there's anyone who doesn't understand what I mean by what happened was, I will say as a lawyer, as a trial lawyer, and I love everybody, I love all my clients, and I'm a fierce advocate. But sometimes, when people may have a different view of the truth, and whenever anyone starts off a sentence of saying what had happened was what WHAT had HAD happened ENED was. Then you made a lie. So I think that Daryl,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. When they start saying what I'm talking about, let me tell you about this or what had happened, and they start looking off to the left, a lie is
To
coming.
the left. It's the left. It's the eyes going to the left. And you know what I do? Just to make everything, keep it 100, as my kids told me the other day.
Yes.
I just say, okay, let's just stop here. Let's recalibrate. I know what happened, but let's recalibrate because we got to win. We got to win this case. You should have told me this 5 years ago, but we got to win. So tell me everything. Don't even sugarcoat, because we can't sugarcoat on the Eva trial. But my point is that there's going to be a what had happened was moment. But what we have to do is prepare for the what had happened was moment and really be aggressive advocates like everybody else who pushes their interests. That's all.
Well, you know what? Guess what? We have got the foremost, present company included, voting rights lawyer and advocate in the country today, Attorney Barbara Arnwine. She's joined by someone who you all are all mentoring, Attorney Maria Banjo, civil rights lawyer, political strategist, but Attorney Barbara Arnwine, she is the founder and president of the organization of which Darrell Jones is chair, the Transformative Justice Coalition, former executive director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. That was created by President Kennedy so we'd have a place where we could seek redress. So you know what? This moment is tailor-made for you, Attorney Barbara Arnwine. We're sending you so much love. How is your mother first and foremost? Because we have been keeping all of you lifted up in prayer.
Well, thank you so much, Santita, for having me on the show. Hi, everybody on the panel. Let me just say my mom is doing well, and hopefully, we keep her in prayer every day, and we ask that everyone else does so that she can fully recover. I wanted to say that this battle for a Black woman on the Supreme Court is one that I've been engaged in for decades. Everybody's got to remember, of course, that this is 232 years of the Supreme Court without a Black woman, that there have been 115 justices, no Black woman, that we need to, really think about. I, of course, during the Obama administration, pushed him every single time to appoint a Black woman. He had those 3 very wonderful opportunities, and he did not do so. And I, was very unpopular, in fact, with the administration because I was so adamant and, and thought that they made a huge mistake when they did not nominate a Black woman instead of nominating Merrick Garland, and fought against that and really was vocal about their strategic era during those times. And it hurts me to my heart that some of the wonderful women who were under consideration during the Obama era are not, none of them, if you look at it, not a one of them who were on the screens and were being talked about as major appointments are in the current pool, not one. Leah Sears was mentioned earlier by Gerald. You have Teresa Wynn Roseborough out of Home Depot, has argued some amazing cases in the courts. You had Ann Williams, who, oh my gosh, what she would have done for the Supreme Court. You had Bernice Donald. You had all of these amazingly well-qualified, super qualified Black women who were now, quote, are aged out of consideration because you had 12 years that have passed. But the interesting thing, when we've been talking about qualifications, everyone should remember that qualifications now is a whole different world than it was even back during the Obama administration, because Amy Coney Barrett on the court. And we know one thing about her. Her qualifications were extremely slim. She's probably the least qualified nominee ever to the court. And people have to remember that. She only... I have to go on mute. I have to go on mute because my expression to what you're saying would not be appropriate on the air, so I have to go on mute.
And I want to keep just for a second. We know what you're saying.
I just got to mute just for a moment.
Okay.
Please forgive me. I just have to go on mute.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, seriously. I mean, we're up here talking about,
Ivy League and all this stuff. The reality is that her qualifications were just ridiculously slim, to put it mildly. And in fact, the ABA had a split panel as to her qualifications, where the majority said she was, quote, well qualified, and a great substantial minority said, no, that's just not true. She's only qualified at the minimum because of her 3 years of service on the 7th Court of Appeals. She never argued one case before the Supreme Court. She had never argued any cases before any appellate court when she was put on the 7th Court with the purpose of being an ideological appointee eventually by, a Republican president to the court. So we just got to be honest about, what's going on. So all these black women that are being mentioned, from Jackson, Kruger, etc., are just exceptionally well qualified. So we got the double standard going on, right? Where we got to be twice as well qualified, twice as great as any white nominee going on also here. And that's insulting in many regards because look at Clarence Thomas's resume. If you want to look at another weak resume, look at, you can go
Kavanaugh.
through the court, the people who are on the court, and all these black women are better.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them are 2 times, 10 times better than a lot of the justices sitting on the court. Now, I personally prefer, candidates who are unusual, who will bring, a good perspective, but they also got to bring, some ability to, be collegial in a non-collegial setting. And that's going to be the most difficult part of this. But I do think that a black woman on the court is imperative. And let me be clear. I said frankly, I think there needs to be 3 or 4 black women on that court. All right? To make it the right court. And I just think that, Darrell Jones, my co-leader, has been making great rationales for the expansion of the court. And I believe that needs to be under high consideration and that the already the dodge of the Biden commission was insufficient and that needs to be revisited and redone to really look at what this court should be looking like at this moment.
Well, you know what? We've got one of the young guns with us today, Attorney Maria Banjo, who this brilliant young attorney you brought to us, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. She's brought so many gems, Attorney Arnwine. And I want to know what you think, because you, you've seen a world that Attorney Arnwine and I, to a much lesser extent, but that we fought for, right? So, getting a woman on the ticket to run for president is not out of the realm of possibility for you. That was something that was crazy when Reverend Jackson ran. Well, his whole candidacy was nuts 40 years ago, but it changed everything. Thurgood Marshall looked crazy 60, 70 years ago, but they changed everything. So now things have changed. We still have a fight on our hands. What about naming a black woman to the court? What about fighting for voting rights at the same time? What about an executive order? Because we need those too. Attorney Banjo.
Yes, good morning. Thank you again for inviting me. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. I think it's a false narrative that we have to pick between the two. And I think it's important that we push both the passage of the Voting Rights Act federally, as well as making sure we get a black woman on the court for all the reasons previously stated. I think black attorneys all over America, especially black women, understand and know what it feels like to be overly qualified for something and to be ignored, not to be listened to, not to be trusted, not to be believed. And so now we're in a climate where those who aren't black women are allowed to have qualifications that are subpar. And not viewed as unqualified. However, when you are a Black woman, the rules are dramatically different. And I think the current narrative that we are seeing around this demonstrates that. I think right now a lot of conservatives are couching it as a sort of affirmative action, or someone is not qualified, or what have you. And that's just really a false narrative. We have extremely overly qualified Black women attorneys who, Biden has a wide array of choices to choose from, and any one of them would be a phenomenal addition to the court.
You know what, everybody? What do you think? As you say, we can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, Attorney Gerald Griggs. We've got to fight for both. This new voice that really reflects the foundation of America, and a progressive Black woman, a Black woman who understands life from the bottom up, and fighting for voting rights at the same time. Please talk to us about them both. And these eminently, if not overqualified Black women, and then you have these other people who just skate onto the court. Attorney Griggs, it's a lot. Attorney Griggs, you still there? Well, that's okay. Well, then let me go to you. Yes.
Santita, I would love to talk about that. Because, somebody who's worked with at least 5 presidential administrations, people need to understand that not all the same people work on the same issues. The people within the administration that would work on the executive order are not the people who work on the Supreme Court nominations. The way the administration is divided with the jobs and tasks are totally different people. So there's, quote, no such thing as a inability to move both at the same time. Because even as we're talking, what are they doing? They are still working on Build Back Better. They are still working on, the possibility of pulling out the child tax credit. Those are all different people. They got, hundreds of people who work out of the executive office building and out of the White House proper and out of the administration agency, the federal agency. So I just want people to be clear that there is no such thing as inability to do both, because the executive order involves no Senate involvement, engagement whatsoever. It's all primarily internally done. Remember that when Trump came into office, what did he do? He signed 100 executive orders on the first day of his work. So which means all that work was done prior to their administration even taking office. So I just want people to really, understand how easy this is. We're talking about one executive order that would be focused on voting rights, that could do several, amazing things that could make it easier for people to vote. Your father has written a beautiful article that I've, circulated, and it's gone viral because of the content of his recommendations for a commission, his recommendations that there be, taken up on Gerald's fabulous recommendations, and he gives Gerald credit for it, that there be, federal monitors, sent into the 19 voter suppression states to ensure all the primaries and the general election is conducted. I also add more to that. Remember, the president has authority in and of himself or herself, one day, I hope, that you can appoint, you can actually declare a federal holiday. So when we talk about Election Day as a federal holiday, that can be done by Biden. There is absolutely nothing to restrict him. In fact, remember, President Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a federal holiday. That's why we have a Thanksgiving holiday. So we need to just really think about all the many things that could be done effectively that were in the Freedom to Vote Act that could, in fact, be temporarily, and I only say temporarily because they would only be effective unless, the incoming president continued the executive order, beyond their term. So there's all kinds of things that we should be talking about. But this whole thing about there's some reason why you can't do it when you got hundreds and hundreds of employees that are directly responsible to the president. No way. There's any kind of, quote, distraction. It's all a question of will and what your priorities are.
Amen to that. I'm going to get closing thoughts from everybody, a minute apiece. Let me start with you, Attorney Banjo. Moving forward, what do you want to see?
I really want to see the voting rights, legislation passed. This past cycle in 2021, here in Georgia, we saw the impact of the voter suppression bill, SB 202, that has passed. It had a great impact on turnout. It had a great impact on folks' ability to vote safely by using absentee ballots, and that impacts election results. And I think that, we have organizers all over the state, all over the nation, attempting to organize around this, pushing back. But, at the end of the day, we can't out-organize voter suppression, and we should not have to. We should not have to. And so I think now is the time to act. There's a concerted effort all across the U.S. to subvert, our democracy. And, if we don't act now, I will be afraid for what the future will hold for us. So that is what I want to see. And of course, I want to see a Black woman on that bench. Thank you again for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you got to come back. I want a Black progressive woman on the bench. We have to be very specific because we speak things into existence. Attorney Darrell Jones. Oh, yeah. Not just any old Black woman. No. I want a certain type of Black woman on the bench because I wanted to offer a certain perspective. Attorney Darrell Jones, 1 minute belongs to you.
And thank you so much, Santita, for having me on again. I certainly would underscore what you're saying. It's extremely important that we have a progressive Black woman sitting on that Supreme Court to be able to voice the concerns of the Black community, because I don't think that the concerns of the Black community right now are being adequately voiced from the Supreme Court. That Black woman will have the ability to do that. I also underscore in my closing words the importance of what Gerald Griggs was saying with regards to the executive order. I encourage people to call 202-456-1111 and impose upon the Biden administration to pass the executive order to stand with us in our continued fights for voting rights. We haven't given up. We know voting rights goes from the bottom up, not from the top down, and we'll be in the streets fighting for voting rights. We want everyone to be there with us.
And we're going to get you those biscuits from your pearls so you can have the sustenance to do it. That's right. 1 minute for you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Yeah, we're going to get you fed. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, 1 minute.
A few things. Fight. That's what we need to do. Fight where you can fight. Not everybody can be a protester in the street. Not everybody can go into court to fight. Not everybody can give money, but you can do something. And that's what we have to do. At your level, fight and be absolutely relentless and refuse to be denied.
Amen to that. The final 45 seconds. Attorney Arnwine belongs to you as we send you and your family so much love as we continue to pray for your mother. God is a miracle worker and can do anything but fail. We thank God for your mother's healing and we thank God for your strength. Attorney Arnwine.
We have 3 priorities, everyone. Black woman to the Supreme Court. Executive order at this moment on voting rights. And we also have to keep people who are in poverty, who are fighting for their subsistence to be in this world, to be able to eat and have food security and housing security. We need to fight for, not only Build Back Better, but even a more expanded anti-poverty agenda.
Amen to that.
And also the elimination of student debt.
No. I'm with you. And I'm so glad you were able to make some time for us this morning because I know how busy you are. And you know what? There's a lot of work to be done, everybody. We do need an African-American woman who is a progressive on the Supreme Court. And I want to be very specific about that. Skin is not kin. We need people who offer a particular perspective. I would love to have a poor white person who appreciates poverty and wants to eradicate it. I want them on the Supreme Court. I want some people who offer a perspective that reflects how we live and reflects what it is that we need, not what we want. God will supply your every need, not your every greed. That's what Reverend Otis Moss said to me. So we need to move to what we need. And there's a common good that needs to be satisfied for every man, woman, and child on these shores and in our territories. Common good. We need to move toward that. And the Supreme Court needs to look like America. This is not 1619. This is not the 1530s. These are the 2000s. America is an evolving idea. It's an evolving ideal. It's an evolving project. So let us have the Supreme Court look like us and let us guarantee the vote for everybody who can vote. Every American should be able to vote. Everybody. Everybody should be able to vote. And the president can sign an executive order immediately to make that happen, to protect our vote. Call 202-456-1111. That's the White House. I posted it in the chat. 202-456-1111. Can't wait to be with you on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sunday. Until then, have a great, great couple of days. God bless you, everybody. Love you much. All right, beautiful people. See, that was painless.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to join.
Yes, it was good to be on. It was good to share with so many great folks. Thank you, everybody. I'm off.
Oh, God bless you.
Stay safe. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much for everything.
Okay.
Attorney Jones, thank you. Attorney Griggs has gone on. We just thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you, love you, love you, everybody. What a great week. And all the work that we've got to do. Let's just get to it, everybody. Let's get right to it. I love you. Can't wait to be with you on Keep Hope Alive on Sunday. Of course, go to your iHeart app. And we're streaming live at the Patriot in California, the Buzz in Cincinnati. Just go to your iHeart app and connect with us. And of course, we'll be on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, with Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior's page, and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So everybody talk about it. Let's talk about everything. I think we're going to be talking about this on Sunday. Oh, so much is happening, isn't it? It's a great time to be alive. Love you, love you. Linda, love you. Blu-ray, Tanya, oh my goodness. Barbara Bacon and Laura. And let me see, Chaparro. Gonna get that food next week. I love it. Laura, Carol out on the left coast, my girl. And Charlotte, and Linda, and Meddy, who helps us to get ready in the morning. Clay. And I'm just sending all of you so much love. You mean so much to me, Mark and Dave and Joyce and Philip and Stephen. How you doing? Now, where are you? Okay. And you're in Georgia? All right, sweetie. I love it. I love it. I love it. So everybody, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you. And continue to spread the word about the show. Continue to tell everybody about us. Love you. Love you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow. Well, Monday on the Santita Jackson Show, but Sunday on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I love you, everybody. Bye-bye. And share this show. If you want to see if you want to hear the podcast here, go to WCPT820.com/Santita, WCPT820.com/Santita. And of course, you can go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so you can see a replay of the show. Love you, everybody. God bless. Oh, Charlotte. Love you. Love you. See you Sunday, Daryl. See you. Love you.